couldn't stand tall. So why didn't you call? So many years gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and I make videos for parents, a lot of them similar to this one, and if that's something that you're into, then I hope you'll consider subscribing. Today's video is going to be all about weaning, and let me preface this by saying that I am not a lactation consultant or some sort of breastfeeding expert. I'm just a mom who has successfully nursed and now weaned 2 kids pretty painlessly, and so I thought that I would share with you my tips and our process for weaning, so that if you're out there and you're also ready to wean and you're looking for some advice, maybe this video can give you some help. So let's get right into it. These are some tips for weaning your baby off of the boob. Sorry, my dog interrupted. You want a bone? Okay. All right, I'll be right back. Okay. Where are we? Oh yeah. So one question I see asked a lot is when should I wean? And I really think that the best time to wean is when one of you is ready. So whether your baby is done nursing, or more likely whether you are done with nursing, then it's probably time to start weaning. So how do you go about weaning? The process that worked for us took about 2 months. And you may be thinking to yourself like, oh my God, I'm ready to be done now. But the 2-month process was pretty tear-free for everyone involved, and it's like slowly reducing things. Weaning slowly actually has a bunch of benefits. First, obviously for your kid who's been dependent on nursing since the day they were born. It gives them time to like emotionally adapt to letting go of that and doing something different. And then also for you as well, like I don't know if you've ever like missed a feed or gone somewhere overnight or whatever, the hormone shifts that come from like stopping nursing really abruptly can give you like anxiety. They can make you have mood swings. They can make your boobs hurt, or like you can get mastitis or engorgement. So by like slowly reducing the demand on your body, you're gonna avoid a lot of those problems and just help everything to sort of like ease back to normal. All right, so let's get right into the meat of it. First thing that I did was I spent a few days observing each kid's pattern of nursing. So I would write down like what were the feeds that we were doing every day. So it would be like when you wake up in the morning, when he takes a nap, after he wakes up from the nap, when he goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, whatever it was. I don't, you know, it's been a little while, but so I wrote down the pattern. Then I picked 1 feed to drop at a time, and I'm going to go through just sort of like how we dropped a feed, so that if you're struggling with like how am I going to do it, I can tell you how we did it. So the first feed I dropped for each kid was the middle of the night feed. Both of my kids love to wake up in the middle of the night and nurse, and I didn't know if they were doing it because they were thirsty, or if they were doing it out of habit, or because they needed comfort. I didn't know, and eventually it got to where I didn't care. I just needed to sleep. I thought I was going insane. So I picked that one as the first one to drop. And so the way I did it was I got a cup of water and I kept it by the bed at night. And when they came into nurse, I would say, sorry, Milk is sleeping. And for some reason that worked. And obviously don't wear a shirt that's like accessible to the boob, because they will try to help themselves. You know, wear a sweater like this or a couple of layers, and then sorry, Milk is sleeping. So off the table somehow. And then I would offer them the water instead. And I remember being really worried about my son like protesting this, like crying and waking up everyone in the house. Our house is pretty small, and I remember like really working up in my mind, but it never turned into this huge event that I was imagining it was gonna turn into. He fussed for maybe 2, maybe 3 nights about it, and then he just let it go. And it was pretty short fussing, like 10 minutes at most. So yeah, I would offer the cup of water if they were thirsty. And then eventually, before they went to bed, I would just, after a few days, I would just say, look, I'm setting the water by your nightstand. I'm setting the water by your pillow. So if you wake up thirsty, it's right here. And I'd say within about a week or so, we had a new system going and they weren't waking up at night. So once that feed's dropped, I make sure we go from start to finish about 2 weeks, so that it becomes a new habit, and that one's gone. Obviously the rest of the day we're still nursing normally. normally, so it's not that big of a deal to the child, but the new pattern is established. Next feed that I dropped was Bedtime Feed, which is like a big one. You know, but a lot of kids are really dependent on nursing to fall asleep at night, and that's okay. But for us, especially with my son, again, it had to change because I was ready to go back to doing some bedtime stuff with my daughter, and I wanted to take turns with my husband with who put which kid to sleep at night. So the way that we did this, and just have no shame here, we took turns putting my son to sleep without the boob. So on my husband's nights, he went back to the things that he knew from when my son was a newborn, like and kind of colicky and fussy. The thing that made him calm was turning on the hair dryer. So my husband would sort of recreate what we did when he was a baby and sort of like wrap him in a blanket and put him on his shoulder, and then he'd turn on the hair dryer and like walk up and down the hall, and my son would fall asleep. And like, yes, I was really involved, but we were breaking a habit, and we only did it for like a week or so, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And then on my night, obviously if I was holding him or something, he's gonna be like wanting to nurse, so that wasn't gonna work for us. So what I did was I did our bedtime routine, got him in his pajamas, lotion, whatever we were gonna do, and then when he was ready for sleep, I put him in the car and I drove around the neighborhood 2 times, you know, until he fell asleep, and I brought him in and laid him down. So whatever you have to do to sort of break the habit, I give you permission. Me, this random person on YouTube. Anyway, it worked for us. So we did that for about 2 weeks, and after that he was no longer dependent. The habit was broken, and he was my dog sounds like a pig. The habit was broken, and it was time that we could introduce a new bedtime routine of books and laying in bed with, you know, a cup of water, a cup of milk, whatever we were gonna do, and we could transition into the next phase of life. I just sort of tell you that story so that you know, it's okay to go unconventional and do what you have to do to sort of break the habit and start something new. So you're gonna go through that over the course of about 2 months, drop each feed, take, about 2 weeks for each one so that it becomes a new habit, drop the next one, and that gives your baby time to adjust and your body time to adjust. But what about those incidental feeds? That's what I'm gonna call them. Like when your child gets hurt, or when they're emotional, or when they're tired, or they're just asking to nurse whenever. There's a couple ways that I was able to sort of stave those off and reduce the amount of time they happen. The first one was to sort of try to assess if my child was hungry or thirsty, and that's what they were asking. And if I thought that was the case, then I would always offer food or a drink first. And then the second one is the technique I learned from La Leche League. They have a technique called delay and distract. And so what you do is when your kid asks to nurse, you just say, yes, but just a second. So you're gonna say yes, so they're not like putting up a shield and ready to fight you, but you say just a second, and then, or just a minute, and then your job in that minute is to distract them in whatever way you can. So turn on TV, go outside, start a game, pull out a toy, get some food, do whatever, but sort of try to distract them from wanting to nurse. This isn't gonna work every single time, but if you do it pretty consistently, obviously while you're doing the other things over the course of a couple months, it's gonna get more and more effective, and they're gonna start getting less and less reliant on just nursing whenever. So it's gonna help to once again, break the habit and make it something that happens a lot less often. All right, so I hope that you found these tips helpful. I hope this gives you a strategy if you feel like you're in the dark and not sure how to go about weaning. I know how hard it can be if you have a toddler that's really, really into it, but I promise if you follow these steps, you can move on to the next phase of life, and it's gonna be great. I thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any tips for weaning or any questions for me, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I am so thankful to have my comments back after talking into a void for nearly 2 years. I read every single one of your comments that you leave, so if you have something to say to me or to the world, please leave it below. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.
Do you miss me at all? Do you think about the things we used to do? No, you couldn't stand tall, so why didn't you call? So many